Good evening and welcome to another night of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights. Great to be here with everyone. We love being here Tuesday nights and having this special American and guest from Australia night. So we'll get right into it. We got Rigo, CT, and Colin. As you can see, one of us did not get the memo on Liverpool gear. The season might end, but you'll never walk alone. We march on, and Colin, you still walk with us, but a little bit alone tonight in that regards. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I have my Liverpool, Abigail Rudkin print over my shoulder. Shout out to her. I'm sure she's not watching, but unbelievable artist, unbelievable piece. And then my Liverpool scarf hanging off my lamp there. But other than that, I'm doing quite well. I'm thrilled to be back and to be with the boys.
Yeah, that was a good save, Colin. CT got the memo. Fresh jersey. How you doing?
Doing well, Drew. Glad to be with you guys and represent below the equator here from Australia. Reds worldwide, and the chat. Glad you could join us. Look forward to it.
Definitely great to have you on too, and someone we haven't seen in a while who's had fatherly duties, coaching duties, all the above, but love to have him when he's here, taking the back seat instead of hosting, as he's more than welcome to recline and stretch out his legs on this one. Rigo, how you doing?
Doing terrific, Drew. Great to see all you guys. Non-Liverpool nope, it's still footy related. The team I coach, my son's under 18. We finally got off the schneid, got our first victory of the season, 6-0. And just super ecstatic, super happy with that, and enjoyed that. So I'm pumped for our chat today.
That's awesome. Great to hear, Rigo. Got a little messy on the cards. He sends videos in the chat, and Rigo's son's got the goods. So we'll see.
Future Gerard, hopefully.
Fingers crossed we see him in Liverpool red about 10 years. But as well, because suits our theme of the night, which is transfers. So future Liverpool transfer, Rigo's son. But for the more current agenda tonight, we've got we'll go with the Allison news. We have center defensive midfielder Alan Varela. David Lynch's comments on Kelleher and Sepp Berg. So we have a couple of transfer rumors that we're going through tonight, and we get to discuss what the team needs, what possibly the team will be forced to need if we're selling these targets. But we'll start with the two goalkeepers. There's rumor that Al-Nassr are reportedly getting ready to bid for Allison. Allison his contract goes until 2027, so this is definitely not something that's like a pressure move, like potentially a Van Dijk or a Trent whose contract expires sooner. So Liverpool are definitely in the driver's seat for negotiations. But I guess the other side of it is, could the Saudi Arabia move for Allison tempt him monetary wise? I'm sure they'll offer him a ton of money. And is this something we'd be willing to cash in on since we're in the driver's seat? Rigo, I'll throw this one to you. Is there any price that would say sell Allison, and do you think he'd be tempted by this move?
At any price, yes. Obviously, if they come and offer even what we paid for Allison 5 years ago, I think that might be somewhat tempting, especially as he's getting on. He is getting older. Obviously, still world class. Has unfortunately had a injury bug here and there with regards to lower leg injuries, so that might be something that factors in. But to be quite honest, I wouldn't look to get rid of Allison anytime soon. The great thing with goalkeepers is that they tend to age very well, and I suspect Allison would be one and the same as far as those goalkeepers who age gracefully and are stalwarts up until their mid-30s, late 30s. Gianluigi Buffon just retired last season, and he still was going pretty strong, even though he was at a second-tier Italian team to kind of close out his career. But yeah, unless they absolutely blow away our socks off with an offer, yeah, I don't suspect he would want to go, and I don't suspect Liverpool would be looking to offload him.
Colin, do you think that Allison might be tempted by this, or FSG with Michael Edwards back in charge, if they throw a wild bid of 250 million, something crazy, that they might go to Allison and be like, hey, check out the beaches, check out the golf courses. What do you think's the scenario on this? Is this realistic or just fancy right now?
Yeah, they'd go to him, say something along the lines of, well, if you're a fan of Sun, do I have a move for you? Yeah. So I think the realistic thing that we have to think about is that we have to keep in mind who is now running the transfer business side of our club. These are true business money numbers people, which doesn't make them bad at what they do, but it does make them predictable in a sense that if the money is offered, they will take it. And if it is money over their projected value in terms of the data of whatever that data says, they're taking the money, and they'll find the next guy, or they'll keep we'll keep Kelleher, we'll start whatever that might be. So the realistic answer is, if the money is above what the projected value is, then yes, we will sell. Now, what that projected value, money over projected value is, I don't even know that I could put out a realistic guess. As for his projected value for the team, without running the risk of sounding irresponsible in the number that I'm throwing out. I think the number is so high. Again, we're talking about a goalkeeper who's 31 years old, who, outside of, as Riga pointed out, has had an injury here and there. It's not been totally constant, but it's not there. I'm immediately thinking about our season 2 years ago, where he almost single-handedly keeps us in what we get, 5th place. Without him, I think we probably get 8th. So I mean, the thing with, and I see the comment here, the player's the one that still decides. I think if the Saudi League is coming in for people, they are with the understanding that they will meet and pay for whatever the player is asking in terms of their wages or whatever their compensation would ask for to make the move happen. They have the amount of money to make that work in reverse. Normally, it is the opposite way. Normally, the club would say, "Hey, what would you need to get this done? Here's what we could offer," and go from there. This works in the opposite way with the amount of money that these people have. It is, "Hey, we paid the money, or we're willing to pay the money to your club. What is it going to take to get you to sign off?" And then they go from there.
Yeah, it's definitely a really interesting situation, the Saudi League, and what it's kind of thrown into the mix for what they're able to offer clubs as well as players, like you said, Colin. And Olivier, very great point. I do believe it all comes down to the players, because as you can see, some players have their heads turned. Most of them at the latter ends of their careers, kind of cleaning up. But some, like a Mitrovic, who I thought was coming into his prime, just said, I'll take the money, I'll go there. So definitely, Allison is in the prime position with this contract going to 2027 to really just have the call be his. If Liverpool's shown in the past, if a player wants to go, they'll let him go. But CT, do you think there's any world where we see Alisson Becker going to Saudi and this summer?
No, not this summer. Definitely not. I feel like there's not so much legs to this from the Liverpool side. More probably just the Saudi or the agents or the teams trying to drum up that kind of interest. I wonder if it's connected, to the Edison, links to Saudi as well. I know a lot of people just look at Saudi as just one entity, but there's them. It's made up of all different clubs, and they're very competitive. They want to rival each other, and I think if one club is getting a big name like Edison, you'll hear maybe Al-Nassr want to fight back and counter that with an Allison. So the fact that Allison's age, I'm not surprised that these links are coming up, because they are probably trying to target someone who's coming towards the later part of their prime and make a big splash that way. I don't see them landing a big star in their prime yet. That it's not that kind of league yet, where a player is willing to sacrifice their prime just for the money. But I could see it maybe in 2-3 years. I think Allison has so much to give still. Like Colin said, he's a vital piece to a title team. And as Rigo said as well, like, in terms of the money, you'd have to be a huge overpay for Liverpool, Michael Edwards, to accept that. Because when you look at it, if you get a certain fee back, you're going to have to spend a large chunk of that to replace what is a irreplaceable kind of keeper. And those keepers aren't just falling off trees, in terms of on the market as well. So yeah, I can't see this really happening, guys.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. And Jono saying stop with the nonsense, Allison not going anywhere. Fans too easily fall for shite transfer rumors. Yeah, that is definitely where we're at this stage of the summer transfer window. A lot of these rumors are going to come up and come through. A lot of them are going to be garbage, but worth talking about to some extent. Or I think that it does come to a point where it's like, if a club offered 200 million for Allison, do you say yes, or do you entertain that? Again, this is just hypotheticals, but it's what you can do with that money. And as we said, I'll bring up the next topic and kick this one to Rigo. David Lynch expecting Liverpool to sell backup keeper Kelleher, Caoimhin Kelleher. Sorry if I butchered that Irish name, but part of it being Ramsdale and Trafford garnering fees around $30 million. What do we see as the fair offer for Kelleher? And in combining that with the Allison rumor, it's like, if we receive a ridiculous sum, would you want to see Kelleher step up from backup, or do you think this is the summer where we see Kelleher head out, Rigo?
I think it's his time to go at this point. Just to get him consistent start. He did a really good job filling in for Allison when Ali did get hurt around 2 months. But unfortunately, I think at this point he won't be satisfied with just being on number 2, and I think now would be a great time for Liverpool to kind of cash in on their investment in Kelleher. We have a few young goalkeepers coming up through the ranks. Yaros just finished having goalkeeper of the season campaign for a title-winning squad. We also have Harvey Davies, Peter Luga, a little further back as far as his development compared to those two, but I think now would be a good time to kind of cash in and groom another number 2 in his stead. The other thing to kind of ask as well, everyone kind of got like their guard of honor and their goodbyes, except for Adrian. Adrian, still no mention of him leaving the squad, so kind of makes me think, are we really gonna extend him again? or what's actually happening there? But in my opinion, I think now would be the time to kind of cash in on Kelleher, considering he got a nice run of matches. It's not guaranteed he's going to have the same amount of matches next season. Knock on wood, Allison isn't out for that amount of time. And again, the lower tournaments, as far as FA Cup or Carabao Cup, those are kind of spot starts for Kelleher as well. I don't think he'll build that much value next season, barring Becker injury. And at that point, if Becker's hurt again, is it Allison that we look to kind of sell off next season. But yeah, now's the time to kind of pounce on that.
Yeah, I agree, Rigo. I think it's unfair for him to kind of sit around and play the bit part role as he's coming into prime age for a goalkeeper. Just his career, he's got to look forward to that, because at that, like you said, at that point you're relying on Allison to get an injury to get a run of games outside of cup competitions. But Colin, how much do you think Kelleher should garner, and where do you think he should set his sights for and aim for next club?
So, firstly, it is the right time for him to go. There's never going to be a point where he's going to, most likely, there's not going to be a point where he's going to play more as our backup than he just has, and as well as he just has as well. It's the right time to make the move for him. It's the right time to make the move for us. And I think there will be suitors. Now, I do think he's hard done by the fact that there are some other people who, could be number ones for teams, but are currently number twos for other teams. Aaron Ramsdale, chiefly among them, who, unfortunately, I think that is going to make his final price, probably lower. I think if it's 30, I think that's great. I'd love that. I think that's really reasonable for the team purchasing. I think they will certainly see value in that almost immediately. I do worry just with the amount of people who probably could. I think the other name is it James Trafford, who could make another move. Who was around that price. I think Kelleher is better than him, so one would hope that that we'd be able to get 30. But the amount of those kind of keepers who are available at the moment for clubs, either who are coming up to get, or bottom 6 clubs who would want the upgrade, I think unfortunately could negatively affect our end price for him.
Yeah, it's definitely a position that doesn't always garner the most extensive transfer fees, Allison, Kepa aside, and I guess United as well. But yeah, getting a backup goalkeeper kind of reminds me of the Danny Ward scenario, but Danny Ward kind of just capitulated at Leicester after he went away from Liverpool, but I thought he had a decent run at times. But CT, do you see, how vital do you see Kelleher leaving this summer, and how vital is choosing the right club to taking the next leap in his career?
Yeah, it is. It's the biggest, no doubt, summer of his career, I feel, because look, the selfish part of me, the fan, would love to see him stick around, because I think he'll get game time. He'll get cup games. We know Ali can pick up, those niggles as well, and miss some games as well. And and look, I think there's worse situations to be in than the number 2 as Liverpool. But as the lads have been saying, the next step in his career is big in terms of choosing the club that, as you said, Drew, about a club with ambition still. Obviously he's got a lot of experience, and shout out to him for that big performance this season. But the Carabao Cup final was just the highlight of that. That was action packed, and all the saves he made. And I think clubs will look at that and they'll say, look, he's a big game player, and he's ready to to be the number 1 choice. And I would probably think a mid-table Premier League team could be the right fit. I don't see him going anywhere where he's, where it's as big of a club as Liverpool, and he's going to continue to kind of fight. I think he'll choose a club where he's clearly the number 1. And as Colin said, if someone's going to spend 30 million, then yeah, that they'll have the full intention of Queeve being the number 1. and I would want nothing more than that for him. I think each Liverpool fan will feel that sentiment of pride to see him move along and get that good move and be really impactful. Hopefully, he doesn't save too many against us if we are going against him.
Yeah, definitely not. I'm struggling to remember a transfer that's really lit us up. Tend to think like Sterling only recently scored against us, but I feel like most players don't do that well when they come up against us. But yeah, definitely do wish him
Remember
well.
remember Lallana when he had a chance to kind of end our title run a little earlier, but he hit it wide.
Yeah. But as we wrap up the goalkeeper conversation, I just want to take a moment. If you have any questions in the chat, please throw it in. We'll be happy to answer them. Again, we really appreciate everyone who's joining us tonight. All of us here enjoy these Star Stripe Anfield nights every Tuesday night. Steven always gets on me for not saying this enough, so I'm trying to jump ahead of it. But if you do enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, share. But more importantly, just enjoy your time here. Please participate. We'd love to read out the comments, love to have the discussion, and love to chat about Liverpool. So as we wrap up the goalkeeper talk, we'll move on to transfers in, and I'll bring up Jono had another comment a little earlier saying this summer we need a starting caliber DM. We need a center back, left back, and another forward. Well, we'll start with the DM because that's part of the title of this video. So according to reports from Portugal, Liverpool and Bayern Munich have inquired about Porto defensive midfielder Alisson Varela. So he's 22 years old, appeared in 42 games for Porto this season, just won the Portuguese Cup with them. Big impact on that game, winning all aerial and ground duels, near perfect in his distribution. Seems like that kind of age and profile of player that FSG would be all over. Colin, I'll start with you. Do you think this is a position that we need to fortify in this summer? And what do you think of going for Porto's Alisson Becker?
He plays defensive midfield. Is that correct?
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. That's what I was just double checking because I'm not inherently familiar with him. This is not a transfer target that was immediately on my radar watch list. I'm very interested, of course, in I think that league, I think, really has an unbelievable reputation of producing players who are ready for the Premier League, with, I think, very little additional need for development. I've been saying this on a lot of streams. I feel like the record is, fully broken here at this point for me, but like, I expect whomever we are bringing in to be someone I probably have not spent a lot of time looking at, especially with the backroom staff making the decisions. Again, as I said earlier, these are people who are deeply data and data and numbers driven. And my expectation for where we will find the value to sign people is not in people that myself and anybody else who spends tons of time on Twitter, will just have seen. So this to me kind of strikes me as something that I don't know a lot about. And because of that, I think that the likelihood of that happening is probably much higher than I or anybody else, again, on Twitter, would like to admit, or be willing to say up front. I think that raises the chances actually, that rather than takes them down.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I'll pull up Olivier's comment here. Edwards will bring in someone from left field. Yeah, I'm wondering if we get back to the days where it's like, oh, we just lost the Champions League final. Oh, we just signed Fabinho. Like, so I'm almost wondering if it's in the news, if that's just like a red herring. But Rigo, I see in the chat that you put that Varela is a bit short for me. Not seeing a Mascherano regen anytime soon. How do you feel about him?
He is Argentinian, like Mascherano, obviously, and they do have some tough-nosed players come out of Argentina. But Varela, a lot of his measurables look really, really good. Hitting up on FB Ref, the things that stand out the most are his passing ability, blocks, clearances, and aerials. Not too shabby. Tackles and interceptions on the low end, but again, that kind of goes into style of play as far as what team he's on. Just like Virgil van Dijk, he's not going to have a ton of tackles just because he knows how to kind of avoid that, kill the pressure before it gets to that point. So I haven't seen too much of him personally. I know on the Twitter sphere, as far as the Liverpool ITKs that are out there, he has plenty of fans out there that would be very, very pleased with us acquiring him. 22 years of age, which again, sweet spot as far as scouting and recruitment are concerned. Ideally for myself, I'd love to kind of hit up these South American targets prior to them going to a Portuguese league or another smaller league and tripling their asking price of what their original move was. But hopefully with the new management, that's old management, we kind of expand our South American reach. But definitely someone to keep an eye on. Wouldn't be my first target, but again, I think CDM is definitely a position that we need to get younger, faster, and stronger at. I'm not entirely certain how many of the boxes he ticks off here, but I am happy with any and whatever rumors are as far as the CDM target is concerned.
Yeah, definitely. And to touch on the point where you were talking about getting the targets before they transfer over to like a Porto or a Sporting and then double that for us, definitely hopeful and excited to see what our U21 squad looks like when we sign a bunch of probably Brazilian youngsters in the next couple of years. But CT, how do you feel? Do you think Bajcetic, McAllister, and Endo can get the job done? We know we have Slot plays the 4-2-3-1, so see who he fits into that squad. Maybe Trent goes in the midfield, but do you think a CDM is someone that we need to bring in right now? And if so, does that CDM need to be ready to start? Or is this someone we're looking to grow into the position? / if you have anything to add about Varela, throw that in there as well.
Yeah, great question. And specifically the final part of that, I think if we're to improve on our finish this season, I think, most of us would agree that, that's a clear area. And I'm glad we're looking at the CDM. People in the chat, you mentioned some great points about Endo. Endo being someone who, exceeded expectations and was a nice under the radar move. And Rigo mentioned Edwards as well. He loves the under the radar pickups. Varela wouldn't be someone that would have me, super hype, but I like his profile. But that position more so, I'm really watching that closely, guys. One of the things that I'm most excited about with Slot is how we line up with the double pivot. I'm a fan of that. I like we don't officially know how he's going to set it up, but from all the talk, it looks like that it will be that the 4-2-3-1 or some variation of 4-3-3 still, which I like more than what was rumored with Amorim, with 3 at the back as well. We've got to really shore up our defense. We're a little too leaky. At times it was physical where, Everton, that game probably hurt me the most. Various parts of the season ended poorly, but the Everton game, we were just out physicaled. They won every duel, basically walked through our midfield. Endo, there's some limitations with him, but McAllister, but Bajcetic in a double pivot, I think could help the situation. But in terms of a guy coming in, I would prefer a higher profile guy, maybe a guy who's Premier League tested. But I know that that's going to cost a lot as well. So yeah, I'm putting all my faith. I'm praying that Michael Edwards can come up with a few gems, and we're singing his praise in 5-6 months from now.
Yeah, it'd definitely be exciting to see someone come straight into the team. Like, obviously, superstar isn't necessarily the Edwards profile, but they did bring in Allison. Did bring in Van Dijk, Thiago. I know under a different watch, so to speak. But we have signed some big names in the past, so it would be exciting to get like a big signing that we could all get excited about.
Too many.
Nice. So,
if Madrid has to clear out and raise some cash in order to pay Mbappe signing on fee.
Valverde.
I'll revisit Aurelien Tchouameni, but I'm very doubtful they'll want to let him go.
They were saying this when I was watching the Anfield Wrap, one of their very first transfer talks, which one of my favorite transfer shows. Second only to us, guys. Star Stripes Anfield Knights here on LC Transfer Room. They were talking about Aurelien Tchouameni as well, and I was like, are we going to do this for a third summer in a row? Are we really going to do this, guys? And I just unfortunately think that I kind of think we are, because I mean to Jono's point in the comments, I think he's right about like the comments he's making in that we could really use that physical presence, the defensive, and whether or not they can play in the two midfield or a one in defense. That's sure. We can argue about that all day and night. I would love to have him, but like, are we going to do this again? And if we're just okay, we've got 100 million. Who are we going to buy? Who else? Like, for that kind of price, like, who else is there who fits the profile? I think the more likely scenario is getting someone who we've not heard of for a very reasonable price, who can turn into the person that we're looking for, rather than being like, we would like the person who is done and finished. Because I just like actually don't know who that is outside of maybe Tchouameni. Maybe, I mean, you could say maybe Caoimhin could do it. But like, are those guys going to leave? I don't think so.
Why would you leave Real Madrid? You're getting Mbappe. You're getting.
How much are they getting paid? Like 200 million.
You have the Ballon d'Or winner, in all likelihood, in Jude Bellingham.
200,000 a week to sit in the sun and train and sometimes play. Seems like a good deal to me.
Champions League like every other year.
Yeah. Being able to take half the season off just because it's not as competitive in La Liga. Yeah. It's, again, we've gotten pipped plenty of times by Real Madrid, not only to players, but obviously in Champions Leagues as well. So as far as wages, they can always offer higher wages. They're getting way better as far as not giving out transfer fees, kind of agitating the player, making them wait out their deals in order to sign, kind of saving them that way. But yeah, we're going to have to find another way. I think even if we bring it back to Lenny Yoro, I think we'll probably lose out Lenny Yoro to Real Madrid as well if they're really sniffing around him. So yeah, it's pretty tough.
Happy thoughts. Here you go. Happy thoughts.
One thing of note, though, as far as a target that we won't see coming, with the just the explosion of the ITK world, Twitter, all these YouTube compilation videos, there are very few players that we don't know or haven't hit the radar in some way. So hopefully they just land on one that actually moves the needle at a good fair price. But for sure, we do need reinforcement in that position. So we'll see. I think that's everyone's number one target, a DM for us.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're all in agreement there, Rigo. And fingers crossed Edwards can get the job done. We've had faith with him in the past. Yeah, fingers crossed. But maybe something that's been thrown in the comments before that might be a little closer to home. We might already have the answer to this, but coming to the. Do we have this? Yeah, last in the title of the video is Sepp Vandenberg. Center back is probably another position that needs some reinforcement. Praises to Kwanzaa for stepping up the way he did last season. Arguably for me, the young player of the season for us, absolutely immense stepping up. Was not on the radar for me. Huge, and at the end of the season, arguably is the number 2 to Van Dijk. I think Gomez deserves some praise for the kind of James Milner-esque role he filled, playing all across the back line. Konate, I'm a huge fan of, but he does tend to have injuries every season, and it's tough to see that. And with Matip going, if your only reliable non-injury prone defenders are Kwanzaa, young lad with 1 season under his belt, and Van Dijk, it's definitely not the best arsenal to go into for center backs in the season. Rigo, start with you. Is Sepp Vandenberg, does he deserve a chance in preseason to prove himself? And is he in the plans if he does? Or do we need to shore up this position regardless?
Let me just ask this. Would you want to bring in the top-rated defender in the Bundesliga to join Liverpool's backline? And that's what Sepp Vandenberg was this past season in the Bundesliga. Number 1 rated defender. Now, is he in their plans, as Muse brings up? Supposedly not in their plans, but I think the smart thing to do, being Liverpool and FSG, obviously, it would be to assess what you really have here. I think he was pretty quick to kind of ship him off on loan deals these past couple of seasons, so they obviously saw something that he needed to develop. Prior to this year, he did have that long layoff when he pretty much broke his ankle and needed to recuperate there. So put in a full year, top-rated defender in the Bundesliga. I say give him a shot. See what you have in him. He can definitely provide coverage as far as center back position and even at right back in a pinch as well. His speed is pretty ridiculous for a center back. He's also Dutch. We have a Dutch coach now. Like, if he's gonna latch on, now would be the time. But if not, would I be upset about cashing in 20 million for him that on a player that isn't in our plans? I'd be more than happy with that, but I'd like to see him get a fair shake and see if he can make the squad.
Totally agree with that. And I imagine if Edwards does move him on, that there'll probably be a buyback clause or something along those lines that potentially, if they think there's a player there. But CT, how do you think, or how do you view Sepp Vandenberg's chances this summer and going into next season? Do you think he's earned the right based on his loan performances to stick around for a season at the club, or do you think this is just something we can't risk and we need to buy a center back that is ready to go?
Yeah, I think the latter for me. More so for the player's development. I think similar to how I feel and what we discussed with Kelleher, I think Sepp needs minutes. He needs to keep playing. He's at that really vulnerable, critical age of a young player's career where, game time is a lot, and we're seeing he can thrive. But if you look at the depth chart with LFC right now, you've clearly got Kwanzaa competing with Konate, and you got Verge, and then you've got, Joe Gomez still there, and then hopefully we buy. That's where I sit. We need experience, we need toughness, talent. Sepp is there, the talent's there, and I think wouldn't be upset if he wants to stick. But as the chat's saying, Nat Phillips likely to depart. If someone could take his wages, I think it was 60K on, something like that. But yeah, with Sepp, I think it's a similar boat to Owen Beck, where he might, depart. Well, Beck will stay on. He'll stay with the club, but either on loan. But I think Sepp will depart. Someone will pay, and someone will buy him.
Yeah, it's definitely at that pushing point. Really appreciate that, CT, talking about what's in the player's best interest as well. It definitely, Colin, do you think it'd be the right move for Sepp to move on, or do you think he should take his chances and fight for the spot? Because I think we've seen this in the past where players have gone on loan and then there's an injury crisis and they could have stepped up and had their chance. I mean, Kwanzaa this season got his chance basically through injuries and given a shot and taken it. That can happen to any youngster in the team. Besetic is one, and then on the other side of it, I think who was Klopp's first signing? Grujic, Marco Grujic. I remember him getting loaned out. Very impressed me every preseason. I thought he was great. And then the one season he like didn't decide to stick around. He got loaned out. Was the year that we had the center and mid like absolute crisis. And I was like, well, he probably should have stayed around and got his chance. You think Sepp, it's right for him to move on at this point, or do you think he should try to stay and fight for his spot? Do you think we'll move him on, force him on, or keep him?
So I feel very complexly about this one. I've been, I have the receipts. I've got them. In our group, I've been ringing the Sepp Vandenberg. Hey, maybe he's our back. Maybe he's our fourth, fifth center back for like 6-7 months now. I've been
alone.
I've not been alone. I have not. That's true. We never forget. But I've been watching Mainz games. As ridiculous as this sounds, they're terrible. They were terrible. So any of his numbers that that people can put up and say, well, his progressive passing or his, I'm like, yeah, well, no wonder his in possession stats are terrible. They didn't see any of the ball, and they were poor while doing it. So I'm not worried about him. I think that there is really a player here. Now, where I'm really conflicted is that I think that if I was his agent, I would implore him to find like a nailed on first team minutes in a league like the Bundesliga, in a league like La Liga. Like he is of that level. I don't think that his performances throughout this year for Mainz were fluky. I think that he has an incredibly high ceiling. We're talking about someone who is 21, 22 years old, and has the amount of like first team and international like world football experience that he does. By the time that he's like 26, when you really start to see a center back like peak, we're talking 4 or 5 years from now. Like I think that there's really, really a player there. At the same time, I'm just not convinced that the best thing to see that player emerge is for him to stay. I think as a Liverpool supporter, I want that because I think he can improve greatly by a year, by having a year of, being behind Virgil, having a Dutch manager, obviously Virgil being Dutch, like it to me, it is a very good environment. But if we're talking about, needing first team minutes without an injury, there's just no guarantee of that. He's behind, would be behind Jarell Quansah now as well, which is another like limiting factor for his game time. We, regardless of whether or not he stays or goes, we need a center back. The numbers just, to me, very few coaches want as low of a squad number as Jurgen likes to carry anyways. So center back is a non-negotiable for me. But I think finding someone who's in the right time that they would want to sit behind someone like Virgil, that they would, not want to play every single game, like finding that person who fits all of those qualifications, I think is going to be very tricky. I think Sepp could do a lot worse, honestly, than being that person.
It'll be definitely interesting to see how things pan out, as well as Slot. Seeing if he's a ruthless manager, where if a player comes in and performs well, if Slot's going to honor that and let that player keep playing. One of the positions was when Bradley came in while Trent was injured, and then like came to the Chelsea match is really, kind of the crowning moment for him this season when Trent was fit enough to play that game and Klopp went with Bradley. And then shortly after that, Bradley, his father passed away, and then he picked up his own injury. Definitely terrible events for him. But I would have been curious to see if Klopp had kept with him at right back if he was fit. I started to do that with Kwanzaa at the end of the season too, with Konate coming back from injury. We'll see what kind of manager Slot is, whether if player gets a chance, keeps it as long as he puts in the performances, or if he's going to have his preferred players. Definitely going to be a lot of change, a lot of interesting, a lot of rumors. We've gone through our title topics for the night. I'll comb through the comments now, see if there's any questions. If you're on X or if you're on YouTube and you'd like to throw in some questions for us to answer before we wrap up the stream, please do so. Again, we always appreciate everyone watching, everyone joining us on Star Stripes Anfield Nights each week. It's we all look forward to it. We all enjoy this community. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you like the video or if you enjoy this content. LFC Transfer Window puts out content every day. Okay, I see one from Jay Muse. Who has the better song, Klopp or Slot? I'll throw this open to the floor. Anyone who wants to jump in on this one, go for it.
Well, for Arne Slot, obviously great football anthem. When I hear "Live is Life," I just think of that video of Maradona warming up, which is absolutely awesome. But really, we only have one real line, and that was given to us by Jurgen at his farewell. So I think for let's honor the man that's to my left here a little bit longer and respectfully agree to state that his song is the best song. And until we have a few trophies and a few years under our belt with Arnie, then we can possibly debate it.
Yeah, I'm similar to that, Rigo, where I'm always a little bit like, fingers crossed, knock on wood, when you give a player a song before he's really shown that he deserves a song. Not saying that will be the case with Slot, but almost like Klopp, where he's like, don't sing my song until we've won the game kind of thing. Very much one of those ones, don't count your chickens before they hatch. But definitely have confidence and belief in Slot. Just that song was catchy though, Rigo. I'll give you that. But
much easier to yeah, but come on.
Oh man.
Can you imagine how loud the stadium's going to be that first pre-game warm-up before Arna's first home game? It's going to be, that song's going to be blasting. It's going to be rocking. I deeply, viscerally agree, but also prior to that game, it's going to be pretty great too.
Yeah, well,
yeah, so I like the Slot one, I'm going to say, to be honest. I think because, hear me out, and I definitely agree about Jurgen in the respect, but Jurgen didn't really want the fans to sing that, and I think Arne Slot, what we're hearing about him has got me excited because he comes in and he's got that outgoing personality where I feel like he's really going to live for that, live for the crowd singing that. And I also heard the fact that he came in and said something very interesting. Slot said, I'm not aiming for top four. Like, why should that be a goal, right? I'm coming in to win it. And if that is true, then that's music to my ears and everyone's, because he wants this job badly. Like, a lot of people might not want it to succeed Jurgen Klopp, but Slot's coming in with that, personality and the confidence that I think he's going to really, deal with the pressure, in a good way. What do you guys think about all of that? What we know about Slot?
For me, CT, exactly what you said. Like someone who wants the job coming in after Klopp. Like a lot of people, like a lot of the media narrative too was like, it's like who's gonna want this job? Oh, it's gonna be so hard to follow Klopp. It's like somebody should be excited to take that chance to take what Klopp has built and then bring it to the next level. And like you said, Slot definitely seems like he has that personality where he's like, "Not pass me the ball, give it to me." And that's what I like to see in players too. I want players who want the ball, who want to score, who want to win. Slot definitely seems to be epitomizing that as a manager. So excited to see him and us American lads get the first chance at preseason to get a look at slot ball with Liverpool. So definitely excited there. But Colin Arrigo, what do you guys think about slot?
Colin, I'll let you go first because your name comes first in the alphabet before mine.
Oh, you're so kind. I just know that before that game, like that like the fans on the Cop are going to be singing it, and he's going to be standing there watching warm up, and he just is. There's just going to be that angle from over in the corner, and they're going to catch him, and he's going to be smiling, and he's just there's going to be that smirk and that CT. You put it so what like that just little like edge of confidence, that little like he like knows a little bit what he's in for, but he's ready to be the driver of the bus. And he's not scared to do it. And it's a little more maybe more like egotism, a little more like, yeah, like we could do this and I could be the guy to do it. And it's very fun to think about maybe the juxtaposition of these two kinds of personalities up against each other. Like I think that's such a great point. I think it's so exciting to think about how one can use the other as a springboard, and not, in no sort of negative terms, in purely like, we just are going to take all this momentum. We're going to just do this other thing with it, and it's going to slingshot us forward. It's very exciting.
Where you go?
All right. As far as me, the one thing you cannot have with this job is fear. Whether it's fear of failing, fear of the role that manager, or what we're going to label it now as a coach, entails as far as leading Liverpool Football Club. And one thing that absolutely checks off a box for me, he does not seem afraid of the challenge. He hasn't been afraid so far in his coaching career, rising from assistant coach to head coach at AZ. Obvious pandemic shortened season. They finished second, just on goal difference. The following year, he did push for a move to go to PSV. So it is it is something that he's not lacking in confidence. And the other thing that kind of ticks a box off for me is his man management. As far as the feedback from his players and any interviews you've kind of seen through these past couple of weeks, he certainly seems to get along very, very good with his players. Very, very moldable, has coached them up, which is why you've seen the value of some of these players absolutely skyrocket, and they've made profit on them. Which is why I know Paul, I see you're on the chat here. Paul really wants to go after some of these Feyenoord targets, and I think in actuality, let's let Slot do his job, which is actually building up value from players that are currently in-house, or players that you wouldn't think can do the job, but in the end they get switched into a position and they just perform tremendously. So I think he's excited about the challenge, which is what you want. He seems very affable, very comfortable in his skin. I know Dutch managers perhaps haven't had the best history as far as transferring over to the Premier League, but English managers have not had the best history over the Premier League either. When's the last time an English manager won the league, guys? Oh, wait. So
I don't know. I don't know.
And it hasn't happened. Yeah, let's give this guy a shot. He has the benefit of having the most terrific human being that we could ask for as far as a manager, leading him into this position and actually getting the fan base behind him, just, you know, sharing the spotlight. It was his night at Anfield to say goodbye, and he had no problem passing the baton and getting the fans to sing his successor's name without that successor even making an appearance in front of those fans. So yeah, I'm super excited for what's to come, his track history, his history of improving players. So yeah, bring it on. Very sad, and will forever be sad to see Jurgen go. He's the best manager we could have ever asked for. But he's certainly left it in prime position, and the person that's going to pick up the baton better have the energy for it, and Arne seems like he's up for it. So let's go.
100% Rigo. I honestly think that's the best way to end it tonight. Well said. I also have to cook dinner, but I think that's a great closing point tonight regardless. Definitely always going to remember Klopp and what he's done for this club. And I think everyone's excited to see what Slot brings to Liverpool. Again, thank you everyone for joining the stream tonight. Star Stripes Anfield Nights every Tuesday night. We really appreciate everyone who joins the chat, everyone who chimes in, everyone who watches. We love this community. We're happy to show up. And again, LFC Transfer Room puts out videos every single day. So if you enjoy the content, please drop by, leave a like, subscribe, comment, whatever you wish to contribute, we appreciate. But your views and your comments are more than enough. So thank you again for another night of Star Stripes Anfield Night. You'll never walk alone. Enjoy your summer. And Euro's coming up soon. All right.